So last year, I made a video about my top 10 most influential bass players. And this video is basically just an expansion of that. I got 5 more names today, and I'm very excited to talk about them. Just like last time, this is in no particular order. Also, as a recap, in my last video I had mentioned that it doesn't matter to me how complex or simple a bass player's style is, as long as they have memorable bass lines. I don't care if a guy is playing a rapid fire flurry of notes if it's not memorable. Just like I don't care about if a guy is staying straight in the pocket all the way if the bass line's not memorable. The mark of a great bass player to me is someone who makes me groove, number one, obviously, but number two, makes me think, how the hell did they play this? Starting with number 1 on this list today, Bakiti Kumalo. Bakiti Kumalo, I mostly know him from his work on Paul Simon's album Graceland, which is a fucking great album in its own right. It was that time period in the early to mid 80s where everybody was influenced by African music for whatever reason, but it worked. And Bakiti Kumalo is himself African, and you can tell in his bass playing style, it's very rooted in, African music, as well as other influences like funk and R&B. It basically culminates in this very eclectic style. And on top of that, he also plays fretless. Everybody's heard You Can Call Me Al. Great bass line, great bass solo. But my favorite song from that track, and the one that really cemented Bakiti Kumalo's name on this list, was Diamonds on the Soles of Her Shoes. That song is great. The bass line is awesome. It's just bouncing along the whole time, but then intermittently, it's going up and down the neck with this kind of arpeggio kind of passage. I don't really know the term for it, but he teases at it, and then every now and then he goes all the way with it and back. Just listen to that song, and you'll know what I'm talking about. All right, next up we got Colin Greenwood of Radiohead. Now, I've never been like the biggest Radiohead fan, but there was a period in my life way back when I was listening to nothing but Kid A and In Rainbows, both stupendous albums. And Colin Greenwood, I'm not saying he can't, but on record, he's never playing lights out crazy bass lines, but they're always really good. And they're always very different. Every now and then he'll be like kind of a sneaky, spidery style, and then he'll be like straight, thrashy, kind of punk sounding. But I feel like Colin does not get enough recognition for how good he plays. Next up, we have Mr. Chris Squire, the late Chris Squire of Yes. Yes, I love Yes. And Chris Squire is a huge reason for that. Everybody's heard Roundabout. I'm going to try to do an updated video of me playing that song, actually, because I actually can play it. Well, I used to be able to. It's been a while, and it's a hard bass line. It's tricky. So, Chris Squire, man, he's so good. Every song he plays on, he's just going full-fledged, just kicking ass, and just making that bass, which I think he was most known for playing a Rickenbacker. I could be wrong on that. But he was just awesome, and he fit perfectly into Yes, which they were already a great, talented band, very proggy. You have to know your shit to play in a band like that, and he definitely did. So Chris Squire. Next up at number 4, we have John Paul Jones of Led Zeppelin. I don't know how I forgot about this guy on my initial video, my top 10 video, because he's one of my favorite bass players ever. He's one of these guys who you listen to and it's like, yeah, that's a good bass line, and then he'll do a thing or two here and there where you're like, wait a minute, I gotta learn that. And you go to learn it and you're like, how in the hell is he playing this? I'm looking at the tabs, I'm listening, I still don't get it. At least for me, that's how John Paul Jones is for me. And I mean, come on, it's Led Zeppelin. How do you not like Led Zeppelin? And last but not least, and please forgive me if I butcher this name, Juan Aldrete, most known for playing in the Mars Volta. He also played in Racer X, but I never really listened to them. But the Mars Volta, oh man, back in the early 2000s, in my early teens, before and around the time that I actually got my first bass, the Mars Volta was a huge influence on me musically, and most notably, of course, was Juan Aldrete's playing. I think it was last year, maybe the year before, he got in some terrible accident or some kind of medical emergency, but I think he's since recovered, or pretty much almost recovered, and he's back to playing bass, which is great to see. We've lost way too many great musicians and artists in these last couple years, and especially last year till now. But Juan Aldrete, man, he's another one of these guys who I'll listen to a Mars Volta song and I'm like, man, I really got to learn that bass line. I got to learn it, and I'll learn like a part of it, you know. I'll get a pretty good amount of it down, and then there'll be that one crazy passage and I'm just like, I'm lost. I'm throwing my hands up. I don't know what I'm doing. But so those 5 guys make up my expansion list, you know. Maybe I should have just done a top 15, a top 20. I'll probably do like 5, 10 more down the line. I just, you know, there's so many great bass players in the world that it's hard to remember them all at once. But anyway, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like, subscribe, hit the bell, all that nonsense. If you didn't like the video, give me some hate in the comments, whatever you got to do to get through your day. I love y'all.